The cold wind of the night bites at my exposed skin. My breath hitches as I pull my jacket tighter around myself. The street lamps flicker, casting long, distorted shadows around me that seem to writhe and twist like tormented souls. But it's not the darkness or the dreary weather that makes my heart pound in my chest. It's the cemetery behind me. I've been standing here for almost an hour, watching the clock tower nearby strike 12, midnight. And every midnight for the last 6 months, this place has come alive with the ghastly specter of the cemetery watcher. I took a deep breath, trying to calm my nerves. I needed to get some sleep before my shift at the diner. So why was I still standing here? Because I had a story to finish. And tonight, finally, I would get the footage I needed. I adjusted my position, trying to find a more comfortable stance, but there was no use. This was going to be a long night. I was determined to see it through to the end. It all started 3 months ago when I first moved into my apartment above the old family diner. That night, just as the clock tower chimed midnight, I heard the sound of footsteps. Heavy footsteps that seemed to shake the very foundation of my building. I assumed it was just some teenagers trying to sneak into the cemetery to pay their respects to some deceased hooligans. But then I saw him, standing in the middle of the path, silhouetted against the light of the gibbous moon, was the most terrifying specter I've ever seen. Tall and gaunt, he wore what looked like a tattered Victorian morning suit, complete with a top hat. His face was pale and drawn, with eyes that glowed an eerie green in the moonlight. He stood there for a moment, as if surveying his domain, and then he vanished. I never should have gone outside after seeing him, but curiosity got the better of me. As I stepped out into the night, a chill wind seemed to emanate from the cemetery itself, ruffling my hair and whipping my clothes about me. The scent of damp earth and decaying flowers filled my nostrils. As I walked, the crunch of gravel under my feet was the only sound that broke the oppressive silence. The wrought iron gates loomed before me, and as I pushed them open, they moaned like the lament of some tortured soul. I walked inside, my eyes struggling to pierce the darkness. The moon was my only guide, casting an eerie glow on the weathered tombstones and gnarled trees. I called out into the darkness, my voice echoing eerily around me, but there was no reply. I turned to go, but then I saw it, a faint green glow emanating from beneath a large oak tree. Drawn to it, I walked towards it, and as I did, the glow grew brighter. Suddenly, it exploded into a blinding flash, and when I could see again, I was lying on the ground, dazed and confused. Had I been attacked? Who had done this, and why? I struggled to my feet, brushing myself off, and that's when I saw it. The pavement beneath me had worn away to reveal a gaping hole, and at the bottom I could see the outline of a coffin. My heart pounded in my chest as I stared into the abyss. I knew I should call the police, but something kept me rooted to the spot. Was this some kind of trap? And if so, who was it for? I fought back the urge to run, and instead cautiously approached the edge of the hole. Peering down into the darkness, I strained to hear any sound that might give away whatever lurked below. But there was nothing, only the beating of my own heart in my ears. As the minutes ticked by, my fear began to subside, replaced by a growing sense of unease. Why was I here? What was I doing? This made no sense. Finally, I turned and ran, not daring to look back. That was the first time I'd seen him. Since then, I've returned every midnight to watch him guard the cemetery. I've spoken to the old caretaker, Mr. Hemlock, a man whose face is as weathered and worn as the gravestones themselves. He told me about the Watcher, how he'd been haunting these grounds for as long as he could remember, but he didn't know why. Some say he's the ghost of a former sexton, a church official responsible for maintaining a cemetery or burial ground. They say he died tragically, perhaps murdered, and now his spirit is trapped here, doomed to wander these paths forever. Others say he's the guardian of the dead, ensuring that their final resting place is disturbed by the living. But I think he's more than that. There's something powerful, almost otherworldly about him that sets him apart from the ghosts that supposedly inhabit this place. Each midnight I wait, I feel a strange mix of dread and anticipation. Dread because of the unearthly chill that seems to emanate from him, and anticipation because I want to understand him. I've tried talking to him, but he never acknowledges my presence. He just keeps walking, his footsteps echoing like a drumbeat on the pavement. Sometimes I follow him, keeping a respectful distance, and sometimes I stay put, watching him go about his silent vigil. One night I followed him, and he led me to a grave I'd never noticed before. It was old, the inscription worn smooth by time and weather, except for one word that still stood out: hope. Who was buried here? And why did the Watcher seem so intent on guarding this particular grave? I searched the surrounding area, hoping to find some clue to the identity of the person buried here, but there was nothing, just more questions. Who was Hope, and why was she so important to the Watcher? Was she his daughter, his wife, someone else entirely? And then there's the coffin. Why is he guarding a coffin that's already buried? Does he believe someone is trying to dig it up? Or is he protecting it from something else entirely, something dark and evil? I've thought about ending my vigil, about giving up on this mystery, but I can't. I'm too close to the truth, or so I tell myself. Besides, even if I wanted to stop, I don't think I could. There's something about the Watcher that compels me, that pulls me back to these lonely streets every midnight. Like tonight, I stood here for hours, wrapped in my jacket, the cold seeping into my bones. The clock tower chimed midnight, yet the Watcher never appeared. Was I wasting my time? Should I give up? I wanted to ask, but there was no one to answer. Just as the first rays of sunlight began to touch the horizon, I saw him. He emerged from the shadows, looking exactly as I remembered. Relief flooded through me, mixed with a tinge of annoyance at being kept waiting. He started his usual patrol, his steps slow and measured, his eyes fixed on the path ahead. I followed, keeping a safe distance, my mind racing. Why did he keep guarding this place? What secret did this cemetery hold? As he walked, I noticed something odd. Every time he passed a gravestone, he paused, almost in reverence. Was he paying his respects to those buried here? Or was there something more to it? Suddenly, the answer hit me like a bolt of lightning. It wasn't just any cemetery. It was the town's oldest cemetery, the one where all the founding families were buried, the one where the Watcher was protecting his legacy. This was his way of ensuring that their final resting place remained undisturbed. But who was he? Who was the cemetery Watcher? I pondered this question as I watched him walk. He stopped in front of the same grave he'd visited the other night. Hope. Was this his daughter? His wife? A member of one of the founding families? I couldn't be sure. But I knew one thing. He wasn't just a ghost. He was a protector, a guardian, and he had been watching over this cemetery for centuries. As dawn approached, I knew I had to leave. I'd seen enough for one night. He had been watching over this place for a very long time, and I knew he deserved my respect. As I turned to leave, I caught one last glimpse of him standing there, silhouetted against the rising sun. And for a moment, I felt a sense of peace, knowing that he was here, guarding the dead and protecting the living. I walked away, leaving him to his eternal vigil. And as I did, I couldn't help but wonder what other secrets this old cemetery was hiding. I may have come to respect the Watcher, but I knew my story wasn't over yet. I'd keep coming back until I uncovered the truth.